What's up guys, Kenan here, and in this episode we're talking about purchasing a used bike and actually how to check the bike before the purchase. Now, I've been buying and racing on used bikes for years now, and I saved like thousands of dollars really by doing it. Sometimes I would even be able to resell those bikes at a higher price than I paid for them, or even some components as well, but that's not the main point here. The main point of this video is to share with you most of the tricks I know when purchasing a used bike, both from the guys that you can meet and you can just see and touch the bike, and also online. This video will be made on this road bike Felt F90 I just bought, and this one is a failure, and also the mountain bike. So almost all the parts that we have to check we have on those two bikes, and I'm gonna tell you how to do it. Now, we have two reasons for doing this carefully. Reason number one is our safety, and reason number two is also how much money do we have to invest after purchasing a used bike. Usually you will have to buy at least something, like some minor components, some minor adjustments. So let's start with the safety issues or reasons. For the sake of our safety, we are checking carefully the frame set, which is the frame here, and the fork, of course, the stem, the handlebar, especially if it's carbon, and the seat post should be also checked. But we're gonna be focusing on some special areas where usually you will see if the bike has some issues and you want to avoid to buy them, or just opposite, the bike is just in great condition or good in condition and you can buy it. So let's just start from the top. We have the top tube here, and that's our handlebar, and that's the place where the handlebar touches the top tube during the crash. Even some minor crashes can end up like this. On this bike we can also notice that the barrel adjuster of the front caliper brake is also touching the frame. So what we wanna check here is whether there are any dents on the top tube right here where the handlebar touches the top tube. There is no dents here, but you wanna carefully check it on both sides, because if there is some dent, the bike had probably gone through some crash or crashes even. So that's very important part. That's number one. Number two is of course all the welds on the bike, and let's start with this one. Those two welds, or three even, make a joint of the top tube, seat tube, and the seat stays. And especially on cyclocross bikes, you should be looking at this part here, because on cyclocross bikes, when people do often jump on the bike, just putting a lot of pressure on the saddle, this part of the frame has to handle like a lot of weight and stress. So this weld here cannot have any damages. Even the paint here should be just as it was as everywhere else. No scratches even. Sometimes what you would call a scratch would be actually a crack on the frame. So if the frame is cracking, do not buy it. Doesn't matter whether it's aluminum or carbon. We do not buy a cracking frame. The other place is here, and that's some cut on the frame to allow for our seat clamp to really close on the seat post. And you want to check whether this cut here isn't also like prolonged with something looking like a scratch that could be also a crack. So that's very important part of the frame. And now I'm gonna show you what's the failure on this bike. That's the head tube. Head tube is dealing with a lot of stress too, because as you can see, we have the fork here, and the fork, when going through some bumps on the road, is really putting a lot of stress on the head tube, and you can see right away that this head tube is cracked. But it's actually very good that I have it, so that I can show you. It's very easy to really notice this one. But if I cover this part of the crack, what you can see here, sometimes we would call it just a scratch really, because very small cracks do look like scratches. So if you have some doubts about scratches, you don't want to buy the bike, especially here. It doesn't maybe happen like here, or not especially here. With carbon bikes, could be, it's also different thing, but these are the places with a lot of stress. You can very often find some gussets on the frames that the manufacturers are trying to, you know, to put a lot of material here on the head tube. So there is the problem. I think the bike didn't have to be crashed, but I think that it's also due to the aluminum fork, which is not so compliant as the carbon fork, and it can be putting more stress on the head tube. So this one cannot be ridden, and this is a failure. I already contacted the seller asking for just replacement, or maybe not the replacement. I'm just gonna send this bike back to him, or maybe just pay him only for the components. So super important place, those welds here as well. Then when we look at the bottom bracket, same thing, no scratches or no cracks that could be looking as the scratches. If you're looking at the carbon frame, sorry, I'm gonna be dancing a bit with the camera today on this episode. You wanna check this place, because when people are having some issues with the chain sack, the chain can really scratch the aluminum frame, steel frame, titanium frame, or simply break the carbon frame. So that's very important place. As we can see, there was no really chain sacks here. It's only dirty. There is no even scratches on this one, so that's okay. Now, dropouts, both on the frame and on the fork, you want to check them. A lot of stress where the wheel is being assembled to the bike, so you want to be checking them. Removing the wheel to check them both from the outside and inside is a very good idea. Now, if we're at the dropouts, you want to also check the derailleur hanger, and this one is actually damaged as well. Let me show you that. I'm gonna move the bike just a bit. Okay, so what's the problem here? The problem here is that the rear derailleur isn't really parallel to the bike, and when I remove the wheel, I can see the derailleur hanger just like moving a bit to the side. So it isn't straight. That's not the big issue, because those derailleur hangers are made of a flexible material, so that we don't break the frame when we crash the rear derailleur, or something like comes into our rear wheel and really crashes or damages the rear derailleur. Then the derailleur would go with the derailleur hanger, but the frame should be okay. So that's the issue number 2, and I know why that is the issue. I've seen on the box when the bike came to me, the rear wheel was removed, and I saw that the derailleur has made a huge hole in the box. So there was no like paper or anything put on the derailleur for protection. So there was no protection, and derailleur hanger should be replaced. That shouldn't be a big issue, but the head tube on this bike is a issue number 1 here. All right, so for the sake of our safety, we have checked the frame, we have checked the fork. Nobody actually removes the fork, so that we could see the joint between the blades and the steering tube, but that would be also a great idea for a full carbon fork especially. This one is just aluminum, so that shouldn't be the issue here, but the frame is garbage anyway. All right, if we want to do it with really inside, it's also a good idea to remove the seat post and see how high the seat post was set by the owner. Some riders would set it too high over the minimum minimum like indicator on the seat post, and that puts a lot of stress on the seat post and on the frame as well. And even though we don't see any cracks or anything, that's always a question mark for us. All right, so safety done. Now, how much do we have to invest on this bike? Number one, that would cause some money issues would be the wheels, and number two, drivetrain. Let's just start with the drivetrain. As we can see, this bike is on the Tiagra and Sora old components, so if we have any issues here, that wouldn't be that expensive. If there was an Dura-Ace, Ultegra, or on MTB, SLX or XT or XTR components. Now, what do we want to have? What do we have to check at first? And it's very easy. That's the chain with the chain indicator. The chain indicator indicates the wear of our chain, and it has like two different numbers here, 0.75 and 0.5. Let's start with 0.5. I'm checking the chain just like this. And what happens here? I can see that the extension of this chain due to wear of it went over 0.5%, because my indicator should stop. It should actually stop here on this pin, but you can see it simply falls down. If the chain falls down on the chain, there's so much space here, play here, means that we went way over 0.5. What it means for us, if we have a steel drivetrain like here, it means no problem here. But then when we put it on the other side, which indicates 0.75% of wear, it falls down again and it has some play. That means the chain has to be replaced. If there was some aluminum sprockets or titanium sprockets, because titanium isn't as strong as steel, we would probably have to replace at least some of the chain rings, and then we would see which chain ring was really used a lot, and those at least we would have to replace. On this bike, I've seen that those teeth sprocket, the cassette in the rear looks okay, so I was going to replace only the chain. Now, if you don't have a chain indicator, you definitely go and buy one, because it would cost like $5. It's not really expensive. You can save a lot of money by checking the bike, and also you will be using it after the purchase. So it's great investment in your bike, the chain wear indicator. If you don't have one and you want to check the bike right now, I would suggest to shift over to the biggest chain ring in the front, this one here, and then we're gonna be moving the chain here on our cranks. I'm gonna go closer with my lights here. All right, so I'm just pulling the chain off the crankset, and those who have some experience already see that it should be replaced way before I was going to do that. If the chain was new here, I would be able to maybe pull it off just like this. Maybe it would maybe move only on like 1, 2, 3, 4 teeth. I've showed you that in one of the previous episodes. But if I'm able to pull it just like that, it moves on all the teeth here. It means just wore down. So we should have replaced this chain. Now, would we have to replace those chain rings? As I said, these are steel and these look quite good. So I don't think there will be need of replacing them. But if there was, how to check it out? That's the new chain ring for the front crankset, and that's the one that should be replaced. What's the difference? Well, checking the shape of the teeth wouldn't be that helpful, because those shapes can change over the years with different models. Before they were quite huge, now they are smaller, and there are different systems for improving the shifting. So that's not the point, but if you can see a lot of material being like pushed off the teeth, you can hear even my glove really stops on this one, and it's quite sharp. That means that this chainring was working quite hard. You can see that here it should have like this oval shape, but it's being pushed here, it was pushed here, and we can see a lot of material being pushed aside. So this chainring wasn't so good. This is the aluminum one, and I've replaced this one with the steel one on our trekking bike Focus I've showed you. So that's the difference between something that should be replaced and something that shouldn't be. This cassette is very dirty, but you don't see any material pushed off the sprockets here, so this would be okay. So in terms of the drivetrain, we have to replace only the chain. The chain set and the cassette, in my opinion, would be okay. Of course, if we assemble a new chain, the chain would show you if it will work well, but I think it wouldn't be any issue here. Now we want to check the bottom bracket. Since we are already on the drivetrain, now we are shifting back to the smallest chainring in the front. All right, okay. And now by pulling the cage of our derailleur, I'm taking off the chain like this. The chain is loose, and I can now spin my crankset, and the crankset moves super freely, super smoothly, so the bearings inside are just great, in great condition. This is a square tapered bottom bracket, quite heavy but also durable. The other thing we want to check out is whether there is any play. So moving the arm to the sides will show you that there is absolutely no play whatsoever here. So this one is in great condition. I'm not sure whether a newest Dura Ace would last that long as this one. Actually, I had some question marks on this bike because some of the parts don't really look like the bike went over thousands of miles. The chain, yes, but the frame, not so much. And now the wheels. What do we want to check on the wheels? Of course, the bearings on the hubs. How to check them? Let's just start with the front wheel, which has no issues. The rear wheel has some. We simply spin the wheel, and you can see it's spinning and spinning and spinning and working very smoothly. Also, we want to listen to it. No noise on the hub. Now, sometimes when the bike is quite old, but the hubs have very good rubber seal, those hubs would still spin very smoothly. But even though it looks like it does look, I would put some new grease inside, clean it and put some new grease. But here, yeah, greasing the hubs would be okay, but there is no issues with the bearing inside, so no need to replace those. Other thing we want to check on the hub is whether there is any play. I'm just holding my frame or the fork and pushing the wheel to the sides. No play, it's just okay. The third thing is the question whether the wheel is true or not. Simply spinning the wheel and checking whether it moves to the sides or up and down. This one is almost 100% true, so it's cool. Now we have lots of the spokes on the wheels, meaning these wheels, like entry-level wheels, will be even stronger than some super fancy and super light wheels. That's why probably we don't have also any issues with chewing the wheel. That's okay. The next thing is the braking surface. On some bikes there is a special groove. We do have it on this one actually. When the groove is already worn down, then we have to replace the rim. But as you can see, this one in the middle, that's this groove. It's still quite deep, And we can hear also that the braking surface is actually almost like new, which means not many kilometers on this bike, or just flat roads and not so much braking. The braking pads is another thing. If we look at those, it would be just the best thing to remove the wheel, but we can see those are almost like 100% of the braking pads. They are very thick, so these are okay. Now, of course, the tires are okay. Now, one thing that is good to consider is whether the bike has two original wheels, because if one of the wheels has been replaced, that could mean that there was maybe some crash on this bike. Those two wheels are exactly the same, felt with Alex rims, so same model. The only thing that is different is the tires, and that's fully acceptable. All right, so the rear wheel, same. Is it true? Does it spin smoothly? Yes. The braking surface, great. Braking pads, okay. If there was some not play, but if the wheel wasn't actually 100% true, would be also a good idea to check the spokes like this, checking whether there are some loose spokes. But here the tension on the spokes is quite equal. That's fine. Now, the free hub body, or the free hub inside. When we spin the rear wheel, we can hear this clicking. Now, on most of the rear wheels, this clicking should be maybe a bit more like you would hear it more like tick, 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 more clear here. So if it clicks that silently, that could mean also that the free hub inside there can be maybe some dirt inside, or just old grease or oil that could be it could be maybe a good idea to replace it. But if it locks, as we can see, it locks on the wheel. Sometimes the free hub will lock the cassette on the wheel when we are just trying it on the bike stand, but when we push harder, some poles could be just allowing the cassette to spin to the front. So that could be also dangerous for our knees, because then we hit the handlebars with the knees. So this sound is a bit too quiet for me. So I would check it out, what's going on there inside. Now, of course, we check the pads, we check the tires. It's a good idea to check whether the pads were set, adjusted properly. And then also we want to find out how smooth it works, maybe how much dirt there is in the housings. These are okay. Also, when you are changing the gears, it should be moving very, very freely, as this one does. So it's okay. Of course, checking whether the gearing is working properly is fine, but sometimes it's just not adjusted well, and you can do it for yourself. So if the drivetrain is okay, that wouldn't be causing much of a problems for you. I can see that this housing and the cable isn't that dirty. You can always clean the cable here, and now shift down the cassette, take the housing like this off, and then you will see what's happening inside. We can see that the cable is clean and nice, so that's good. Sometimes you would find some rust here, and that would mean maybe like, I don't know, around $15 extra to replace the housing and the cable. So here it's just fine. I'm happy with this one. So basically we have checked this bike. Of course, the bearings and in the headset we should be checking it, but here, because of the crack here, the headset doesn't really work freely. I'm gonna show you that on the mountain bike. So in terms of the road bike, I think we are done now. It's always good to check maybe the saddle, is it really like in good condition, or you can see that there was a lot of cycling on it, and maybe some rain as well. The bar tape will show you also how much it was used. The bar tape can be always replaced, so it's not a huge problem. So now we're gonna be focusing on a mountain bike. and that's our bike. I'm happy that this one is a fully, so that I can tell you more about all the parts we want to check. Let's start with the headset. It's always a good idea to do something like this with the bike, and if you see hear any play, any noises, then you would try to check some play on the bearings. Now the headset, put your fingers on the upper bearing on the headset, like between the bearing and the frame, break the front brake and do some pushing on the bike. I don't feel any play, so the bearings against the frame don't move. Same with the lower bearing here, it's just fine. We can also check whether there is no problem here. Now it's very rare that there will be any play here, but you can always put your fingers right here and move the bike. It seems to be fine. Now the fork. Suspension should be working very smoothly, so when we push the fork, it should work with no friction. We should not feel any friction here whatsoever, and it should be same with the rear suspension. Should be working very smoothly and in a very nice way. Now, since we have a rear suspension here, it's good to check all the pivots whether there is any play, any problem. There is no problem whatsoever here. Now, if the suspension is very soft, it could mean that it doesn't hold the air. Maybe the seller would tell you, okay, let's just pump it up and it will hold. It can maybe hold for an hour, 2 or a day, but then it will allow for the air to just disappear. That would mean that you would have to pay for the maintenance of your damper or the front suspension as well, because the fork can also be with the air spring inside. I'm talking about the air spring because that's what usually you'll be having now on the mountain bikes. So that's important. The suspension should hold the air. Now, what should we be checking on the suspension as well? Depending on the kind of suspension, this one is fatty, but it doesn't work. It doesn't matter. I'm just gonna show you some basic rules here. Now, it should be working in a very smooth way. That's the first thing. If the fork has a lockout, a full lockout, when locking it out, it should completely stop any movement on the fork. Now, of course, some forks have different kinds of lockouts and some thresholds and different ways of adjusting it, but full lockout should absolutely should make this fork absolutely stiff. If it allows for like 1 centimeter of the travel, that could mean that there is maybe not enough oil, but or something is no longer sealed. So check that out. The rebound. When we are pushing hard on the fork, it shouldn't be just going back so suddenly, especially with this strange sound. You should be hearing some, so the fork doesn't want to go back so suddenly, and that's the rebound. You are checking the rebound on your fork, and of course there should be no play on the fork. So this one is okay as well. It's not complete, but I'm just showing you some rules. So that's in terms of the fork, and then the last thing is the disc brakes. You want to check the discs. You will see how many kilometers or miles the bike has been ridden. For example, using this caliper and just closing in on the surface like this, because that's the structural place area on this disc where the pads are not rubbing against, and here they are rubbing against this surface. So I can see now that The pads have taken maybe like half of the millimeter of this disc brake. It's just like half of millimeter thinner here, so it's still okay. And also the braking pads, they look just like this. These are XTR, and that's the way those would be braking, right, on our disc brake. You don't want to have like super thin braking pads. No one should wait until this material here will disappear and only this plate will be left. So you want to also check that out on the bike. Sometimes it's good to remove the wheel and you will see better, maybe even from the bottom. It depends on the model, how thick or thin the braking pads are. Those disc brakes, those disc rotors should also be true as the wheels. You don't want to hear any rubbing on the pads. Sometimes it can be problematic with different models. It can be problematic, especially like super light, fancy disc brakes can have this problem with untrue rotors. So check that out. I think that would be basically it. If you check all these things that I've just showed you, you should be good to go and you should be able to make a right decision for you. If you have any further suggestions on how to do it, what to check, how to check it, let us know in the comment section. It will be super helpful for all those guys buying awesome used bike. So thanks for watching, give me some thumbs up and share this video if you find it really helpful. Those rules have been super helpful for me. And now I'm gonna send this guy, this red little guy, back to the seller. So see you soon, bye bye.